Hello.
So, welcome to our next panel for Coming of Age and Legacy Shorts Block. We've got our amazing filmmakers joining us here. Before I introduce them, I'll just briefly introduce the film festival. The Chicago Southside Film Festival is a not-for-profit arts and culture organization founded in 2017 by the Southside's own Michelle Kennedy. The festival's two-part mission is to provide the Southside filmmakers with opportunities to screen their film in their own community and to use film as a tool for collective intellectual and community engagement. When the Chicago Southside Film Festival started, there were about 100 film festivals and events in the Chicago area, and none were dedicated to or catering to the South Side and the creatives there. So we're going to get started with our filmmakers, and I'll just ask each of you to go around and introduce yourselves quickly. So we'll start kind of in the order we are on the screen with China.
Hello, everybody. My name is China L. Colston, and I'm the writer and actress of Big Chops.
Aretha.
Hello, happy Saturday. I'm Aretha Tatum. I'm the writer, director, and producer of Passed Over.
Tristian.
Hi, my name is Tristian Montgomery. I'm the writer and director of The Shine.
Okema.
I'm Okema Seven Gunn. I am the writer, director, and producer of A Sisterhood of Signatures.
Perfect. TJ Ali, the director for An American Boy, he should be joining us shortly. He's just resolving some issues with his internet connection. And two of our filmmakers couldn't join us. Elena Valentine, who directed Humans at Work, had a family emergency, as did Eleva Singleton, and she directed The New Mother. Eleva did give me a quick statement to share since she can't speak for herself about the film that she's got in the festival, which is The New Mother is a universal theme needed more now than ever. Thanks to my amazing cast and crew that helped me bring the film to life. We're all new mothers, men, women, young and old, taking care of each other, our families, and ourselves and our world. I created The New Mother after caring for my own mother for 16 years as a silent film, so perhaps the audience will use their own life and see themselves in this shared experience. We can find strength in difficult times when we realize we are not alone. So, beautiful statement from a fantastic film. And my first question for each of our filmmakers is tell us about your decision to make the film. How did you go about beginning the process? So I'll start with China. We can work our way around.
Well, I wanted to, I have notes here. So I made this film because I wanted to explore how American Black actor, how being displaced by an actor from another lineage, how it would hurt and disappoint that person. And also to explore the many stories we have, many biopics we have to share, and to not allow one setback to overcome you, to push forward and tell the many multitude of stories that we have to share. So that's why I wrote Big Chops.
And for me, for Passed Over, the reason I ended up doing that, it was news. You had a lot of people who were dealing with the fear of these workplace shootings that were going on. And around that time when we were working on that film, we had a big news story where there was an actual workplace shooting in the Chicagoland area. And so that was something that God inspired me to do, to main messages to equip people that in the midst of it, they teach you to run, hide, or fight. I'm adding pray to that same scenario.
I think my inspiration for The Shine was like I was in the creative space where I wanted to do music videos, and my roommate had a poem called Black Boy Fly, and it was kind of like based on Kendrick Lamar's song Black Boy Fly. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but it's a pretty good song. And I basically wrote what I saw, and I'm big on like effects and sci-fi stuff. So I really want to try to do something ambitious and do something with a kind of highlight effect throughout the film to show kind of the inner, it's like a metaphor for the inner power that Black men and Black people, Black women, whoever have inside of them, basically.
So the reason for a Sisterhood of Signatures, how I came to making this film is I wanted to make a film about my grandmother that involved my grandmother and my mother talking about cursive, the history of signatures. And I also wanted to focus on middle-aged Black and brown girls. So that's one of the themes in my film. I hadn't done a film in about 10 years. And so I wanted to make something that was kind of educational, but at the same time, something that would be a positive influence. Because 2018 was kind of a tough year for me. I'd had people pass, and so I wanted to make something that was going to be uplifting for me personally. And so this is one of my personal stories. So that's why a Sisterhood of Signatures has a lot of themes for young adults, and it talks about passing down traditions and things like that. So that's kind of where that came from.
And joining us now is TJ Ali. So please introduce yourself. And our first question was really just, how did you get started with your project? Like, what was the process like to get the ball rolling?
Okay, great. Yes. Hey, everybody. Thank you for having me. Apologies, I was late. I was having a bit of a connection issue. I had to run back inside. For me, the process began realizing that a lot of the times we tell children how they should behave, and I think we have to, as a society, check how we address children and who they are supposed to become. And I think what I mean by that is looking at a past experience that I had as a kid, and that changed who I was as a person, and really, changed the trajectory of where I might have been. I said, I think I would like, for my very first short film, this film was a part of my grad school thesis, I want my very first short film to be about really what it means when we give young kids a forceful box for them to fit in that they might not necessarily fit, and what that might look like for their background, who they might become, and see the beginning stages of what those little baby seeds of trauma can be for young kids, especially young Black and brown kids, and exploring what that looks like with one scenario. So this was a very personal experience for me. It was really remarkable, cathartic experience, and I was really excited that this was my first short film ever.
We can't hear you, Lex.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Going off of the themes of coming of age, so many of your films included working with young people. So for the directors who had young actors, Okema, Tristian, and TJ, can you each share with us what the casting process is like and what it's like to direct young actors? Okema, we can start with you.
Okay. I had a lot of advice as far as working with the young adults. I had somebody that had been working with young adults, Josie Thacker. She was formerly one of the Fly Girls, and she's done a lot of things in the entertainment industry, and she's worked a lot with young adults. So she gave me some advice, and she told me, she said during the casting process, because my young adults, they had quite a few lines that they had to memorize, and they memorized them very quickly. I mean, they were very professional, and just as professional as the adults. And when I went into the audition process, part of it was they had to write cursive. So a lot of people don't know that because it's a film about cursive, that was part of the weeding out process, is you had to know how to do cursive. So that was one thing, because I wasn't sure how that was going to play into the film. So they actually had to take a writing test. So that was one thing. The other thing is, as far as the acting, I wanted them to be natural, and they kind of had to fit the character in my mind about who I wanted the people to be. Now, originally it was supposed to be like one African American, one Latino, one Caucasian. Like I wanted girls from different backgrounds, but it ended up being like maybe two African American, one casted as Latino, and one Caucasian. But back to what I was saying is, I had in my mind the look and the type of feel that I wanted. I didn't necessarily go with that. I kind of went off the energy of the girls. Like I had some girls that were amazing and just knocked the socks off their audition. And I was like, whoa, this person has a real presence. And so those were the characters through their auditions that really spoke to me. And I put them in that kind of character. So they might not have necessarily fit that role, but I kind of pushed them into that character. And so for the audition process, it was kind of like a vibe that I have with the kids. I also I teach middle school, so I have kind of rapport with that age group. So it was kind of easier for me to talk to them, and I say, hey, it's not a big deal. I treated them, very well, and I don't want them to be nervous or anything like that. So I wanted the best for them. I wanted the best to come out in their audition. So even when they came to in the beginning audition for just say their name and different things like that, I gave them cards to read. I didn't want them doing anything that was stressful. I wanted them to just go ahead and audition and just be natural and just knock it out the park. And that's really what came out of that. I wanted them to feel as comfortable as possible. And then I think that's how we get the best results. As far as casting, I had some leads because I was in the entertainment industry. So I did get some leads from other people. So that was very helpful.
Thank you. And Tristan, and then TJ after Tristan.
So my experience on set was pretty smooth because of the parents, I think. They were a big help. And it was just easy. Like my approach to a lot of the scenes, like especially the basketball court scene, was just playing with him like basketball before we shot. And he didn't know about the basketball, so I kind of had to like teach him a little bit and have a bit of a background in basketball. But yeah, I think the parents were the biggest help. I only had 2 kids, so it wasn't that hard or cumbersome to work with them. So yeah, I credit the parents for everything, basically.
Nice. And for me, because I was in grad school at the time, I was freaking out. I was really nervous. I was like, I've never directed a group of kids before. What is this gonna be like? And I asked my professor at the time, and he was like, listen, you're not casting a character, you're casting a kid. So when you're looking for your lead and for the supporting, look for a kid who in real life kind of marries as closely to that character as possible, because in that way they won't necessarily be acting. They really would just be existing as themselves and reacting naturally as they would in real life. So for me, it was very, very scary because I had auditioned over like 24 kids and just still had not found that lead. And then it was a Sunday late afternoon. My very last audition was Tyseer Page, who wound up becoming the protagonist, the lead character. And I was like, I mean, he walked into the audition and started singing and dancing and smiling, and I was like, "This is it. This is him." And I was so excited. And to Tristian's point, I have to say shout out to the parents. His mom Gina and his dad Tyrone were just so supportive every step of the way. And I think having that parent buy-in, understanding that it's going to be long hours, is a very limited budget, so we ain't got no car service and plush hotels and all that. Like it's Airbnb, it's Ubers. So just understanding that, it's going to be that dynamic, I think definitely helped me having the parents on board.
Thank you. So along with the early stages of the film, my other question is, how have each of your projects sort of changed from the early stages of your concept to like the finished product that we got to see earlier today. And we can just start with China and then go around.
Okay, so with Big Chops, the movie was supposed to take place, the entire film was supposed to take place inside Frank's Lounge in Brooklyn. And because of time constraints, we had to establish another shooting date. And I reached out to the owner, to ask him if we could, we need to resume another shooting date. And he said yes initially to the first date. And then I had to reach out to the entire cast and crew and ask them if they were available. They were not available. So I said, well, here's a date that's available, May 19th, Malcolm X's birthday. And I kept texting him and emailing him or texting him and leave a message. He would never respond to my message. I said, you know what? I talked to a fellow filmmaker. He said, well, you have to create a plan B, China. And I was like, this is true. So I decided we're going to shoot it in the park. And I had to write some dialogue that would make sense for us to leave the lounge and head to the park. And I'm really grateful that it turned out because it's actually even more interesting visually because we're in the park and you see more of Brooklyn. So it worked out really well, actually.
And Aretha?
My ending actually changed. It was supposed to initially be that the power of prayer and, the gunman couldn't get in, and that was it. And so the ending, I said, well, why didn't the gunman get in? Because they had angelic assistance. So then I added the part with the angels at the end of it. So that wasn't in the original script. I added it once I started casting. I said, you know what? I think I want to add some angels, and who wants to, play the roles, and some people, actors know actors. So they just suggested, because I said it's just one line. So it's not like it's a big part. So it doesn't matter who does it. Just give me, some people to play angels. But that was not the original plan to have them in there.
Okema?
So it's quite an interesting story. So Cinda Williams from Mo Better Blues, she's my associate producer, but she also helped me write it. So when I came to her, I said, Cinda, I have this idea for a film. And so I pitched it to her. I said, can you be my actress? And she said, yeah. But she said, I have a few things. She's like, you don't really have a script. You just have like an idea. I was like, oh, dang. So so I had to go back. And so with several drafts that I went through before I actually came to a final script. And she was like, baby, you ain't got a script yet. And I was like, oh, man. So she really kind of pushed me because my film, it was supposed to happen in one day. And so I broke it out where there was 4 girls. And she said, it has to show progress. So it ended up taking place in 4 seasons for each girl. So each girl has her own story. And I thought that was really thoughtful and smart on her part as a screenwriter and as a creator. So she really helped me with that. And then the last scene, they were supposed to like throw the papers up in the air, supposed to be like free. But the end scene, I like the way that it turned out because I think if I would have went with that, it probably wouldn't have made as much sense. So I like the fact that I didn't, that the ending changed. So yeah, I went through, I don't know, 6 or 7 drafts or 8. I can't remember how many, but it went through a lot of changes, and the dialogue went through a lot of changes too. That whole beginning scene with there was like some, arguing and stuff like that. That didn't happen. I didn't even write that in there. But again, Cinda was very natural and very seasoned. So she kind of told me what would be expected of the, of a film, and kind of, what to do on set. So I was lucky to have her because she was able to help me with the filmmaking process and for writing.
What changed for me was kind of the season. It was a little colder than I thought it would be, and the basketball scene, it ended up snowing a little bit the day before, so I had to go out and actually shovel a little bit. But yeah, that was it. I think I wanted a real police car as well with the blue stripe, and I had the lights on top of it, so I had to actually like rent a car and then get lights from Amazon and add those. So that is the only thing that changed for me. Everything is basically the same. So, yep.
Nice. For me, my whole title changed. The original title of my film was A Beginner's Mask, to touch on like how a young kid or kids that might experience various traumas start wearing masks in their life, and that could ultimately change the trajectory of their life. So February of 2018, Esquire magazine came out with this magazine spread called like The Ultimate American Boy, and it was like a white suburban kid during like Black History Month. And I just felt like that was just so tone deaf, and I felt that, you know, here we go again with another mass media message about what the all-American experience is through the lens of whiteness. And I was like, no, like there's so many of us out here who are young Black men, or who were once young boys, who have such a myriad of experiences that, you know, entails what it means to be American. So I was like, you know what? My experience was, I'm an American boy. There's so many American boys out here who truly have, you know, varied and beautiful, colorful experiences. So I was like, I think for me, it was about September, right before we filmed. I was like, you know, I'm changing the name of my film. I'm going to make it An American Boy. And that's going to be the lens and slice of life for my film.
And that kind of segues into my next question, which was, how much do you see yourself, or how much did you put yourself kind of into your main characters or your main cast? Everyone seems to have a different amount that they kind of relate or identify with it. So I'll start with TJ and go back the other direction. Yeah, how much you identify with or sort of represented by your characters?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this character was definitely inspired by a personal experience that I had experienced in my life, and other friends that I know who felt different or othered as a kid, or felt like they had to fit a certain box because their parents wanted them to, whether that was religiously or, you know, academically. So I definitely connected with this character, and I feel like after seeing a film like Sister Act 2 with Lauryn Hill, and Boys Don't Cry with Hilary Swank, and Moonlight, you know, we need more stories that touch on kids having experiences that, you know, especially Black kids, because I think our stories are just so vast in our community. You know, what those experiences look like, how they impacted us becoming adults. So yeah, this character was definitely close to me as well.
I think I related to my characters from like the outside looking in, because like I wrote this kind of looking at my brother's life. Like I have three brothers, and just seeing their experiences and their run-ins with life and police brutality and stuff like that, and being able to see the power and like the innocence they had inside of them when other people couldn't. Um, that's the way I relate to it, and just like the light inside of them that I show with the VFX is kind of like innocence and power, and I feel like I'm still kind of innocent in certain ways. And when I wrote this and directed it, I was innocent. So yeah, I don't know. That's where I relate.
So, so my personal experience with the Sisterhood of Signatures, like Tristian was saying, my influence was kind of me looking back at my childhood, and I look at the characters and how innocent they were. And it's funny because the young women that were in the film 2 years ago, they've grown so much since then. But I look at how I was in middle school, so innocent, so just looking towards the world with hope, and not knowing anything about you know the cares of this world, and kind of naive. But I think when I wrote the film, it's funny because my music composer, Rob Diggy, he said, the main character, he said, that looks like when you were younger. And so that's kind of funny. So, but creating the characters in the movie, I was looking at me as a person and my childhood desires. And so some of the influence were, my grandmother. I wrote it in 2018 in fall. So one of my influences was Black Panther. So that was one of the things that just had come out. A Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. I thought that was, I love that movie, but I didn't think it was diverse. I didn't see any Black girls in it, and if they were not represented. So I love that movie, but I was like, you're not touching on the places that I need to see. And then also The Outsiders. That that was a movie from the 1980s, and in the book, and I thought it was, even though it was a group about a book and a film about young boys, I thought it really touched about the innocence and how young people think. It's kind of universal. So if the beginning of my film, there's no spoiler alert, but in the beginning there's cursive, and then she starts writing, and that comes from The Outsiders, the beginning of The Outsiders. So I had a lot of influences from different books and different genres, from middle school books, and those kind of topics.
For me, part of my ministry, I deal a lot with helping people take their focus off of fear. So it was based on a workplace shooting, but the main message was whatever situation you're dealing with, you lost your job or whatever, you had a bad diagnosis from the doctor, is dealing with the fear and focusing on, okay, what do we do in this situation? Because just being and allowing fear to overtake you is not going to help you. So what do we do? And as far as the part with the angels, I actually was once in a car accident, and this SUV actually was about to slam into my car, and I saw it crush my driver's side mirror, and then all of a sudden it went back. And I'm thinking that looked like the truck got pushed back, not just went back. And then the passenger who was in the person in the passenger seat, she said it before while I was thinking it. She said, it looks like somebody pushed the truck back off of your car. So, because the impact should have been a whole lot worse. And I was like, okay, yeah, I know that was not normal, that truck should have really, really, really slammed me, but it did not. So the film was a combination of, experiencing, knowing that there's more out there than what you can see, and the power of prayer over the fear of whatever situation you're
in. With me, I guess the similarity with Penny and myself is that, she's about, produce your own film, like take the money and run and produce your own film. However, I'm actually more like the character that played opposite of me, the Derek character. I'm more fiery and passionate about, no, let American Blacks play our historical cultural heroes. Why are Black Brits playing them? So I played the opposite of who I really am by playing the characters about get that money. That's not me. So that was fun, playing somebody the opposite of who I really am at the core. So.
Makes sense. And so what was, along with the process of creating and crafting it, the financing? Everyone always wants to know, how do we pay for these fantastic films? Or get the resources if not paying for them. So I'll start back with China. How did Big Chops come to be on the budgets?
I had a GoFundMe campaign, and put the link on, shared it on social media, and a number of people chose to make a monetary donation to the project. My cousin made the most substantial donation. Actually, he's not a part of social media at all. So shout out to my cousin Tecumseh. But yeah, it was just a village of people chose to make a donation. And then actually, yeah, I didn't have to come out of my pocket at all because of donations. So the generosity of other people. Yep.
For me, with the company, that the fictitious company, we had display of a lot of the boxes. So I had some friends and people I knew that were entrepreneurs, were like, hey, you want to get a branded box, to help with the funding of the film, so that we'll, kind of pan your name, and give you a little bit of exposure. And it's cool to say, hey, you had your company logo as part of this. And then in addition to that, it was the firm of Me, Myself, and I that ended up putting the rest of the money together for the film.
And Tristian next, since it looks like Okema is still on her way loading as well?
I paid out of pocket for this. I worked in advertising at the time. It was my first job out of college, so I was fortunate to be able to pay for it. It wasn't like big budget; it was pretty much low budget. So, yeah, it wasn't a big deal.
And then for me, much like China, I use GoFundMe to raise funds. Shout out to all the folks who donated, utilize social media, friends of friends, family friends. And then at the very last minute, Taisir, who's the lead in my film, his mom's friends from high school made the most donation, the most substantial amount of donation, and that was the very last donation that I needed to make my budget. So he was just like, it's crazy because like it's nerve wracking to reach out to people for money. Like I don't want to ask people for money, but like it's necessary. But then you never know who's gonna jump in to help you. For China, it was her cousin. For me, it was some people I don't even know that knows my lead's parent from high school who gave me the rest of the money that I needed to finish my film, which is beautiful.
Wow. And Okema, I don't know if you're able to hear the question, but how did you finance your film? Oh, looks like her video's cut out. So until Okema comes back, we'll move on to the next question. So quickly, by a show of hands, how many of you have ties to Chicago? I know a couple of you are from Chicago or in Chicago. TJ, you, all of us. Okay. So how have your ties to Chicago kind of informed your experience as filmmakers, since we're up and coming, but we're not LA or New York quite yet, not quite Atlanta yet either. So let's start with China.
So first of all, Chicago has the first short film ever produced, Black short film ever produced, was out of Chicago in 1916. Okay, so Chicago is a trailblazing independent film city, and then we have Love Jones, Cooley High, Mahogany, Blues Brothers, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Like Chicago has so many classics that have come out of Chicago. So I'm influenced by all those films because I'm really grateful that we have, like, Chicago is freaking dope cinematically.
Oh, for sure. Aretha?
I agree. I love Chicago. I mean, you can't beat our skyline, the lakefront, the neighborhoods, the flavor of the neighborhood. So I always say, you know what? I believe in where we are as a city, as Chicago, even though you hear, the negative stuff, because I have relatives in other states that are scared of Chicago. But I'm like, no, it's still a great city despite the headlines. You still can move on. And in my particular case, my brother was shot and killed on the west side of Chicago. So our family knows what that violence is like, but I still also see the beauty in the city and I love it. I don't want to we shouldn't have to be New York or LA or Atlanta because we are Chicago.
Right on. Tristian?
I think I agree with all of you. Like the settings and the locations and stuff really tied me to Chicago and attracted me to Chicago. I'm not originally from here. I came here for school, but yeah, I love Chicago because it supported me first as a filmmaker. And all of my best experiences have happened here. And the resources as far as actors and equipment resources are vast. I don't care what anyone says. Like I think in that aspect, we kind of match up to LA or New York. So yeah, or even do it better, I think, when it comes to indie film. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm from the South Side do or die. Like that is who I am. That is like that. I mean, Michelle Obama said it best. I am from the South Side of Chicago, and that tells you everything that you need to know about me. And I feel that. And I've had the pleasure of living in New York City. I currently live in Los Angeles, and so it's like, people, to Aretha's point, when people hear that I'm from the South Side or just from Chicago, they always say, "Oh my God, like it's scary." And I'm like, what? Like Chicago is such a beautiful place, albeit it's very segregated, and I think that plays into the part of some of the cultural divisions in Chicago, but like it's a beautiful place. And I think, you know, when you think about Native Son, the film that was inspired by the book that was on HBO, Lovecraft Country, I think these are some examples of like current current narratives that are birthed from Chicago, because Blackness in Chicago is just so beautiful because it's so vast. I mean, you know, I have friends of all types, family members from all types of Chicago in terms of neighborhoods. So I can't wait to see more narratives coming out of Chicago.
Ah, perfect. That was going to be like my
Lex,
next.
Lex,
Oh,
I forgot Soul Food. Sorry, another classic.
Yes, that's a classic.
yes. Yes, definitely a classic. So yeah, my next question is going to be like, as filmmakers who are also, you know, media consumers like the rest of us, what are some projects and some series or films that excite you as a creative?
Well, again, the films I mentioned, which is Love Jones and Cool Eye, and Claudine. Claudine is my favorite film of all time. So that's my biggest film influence.
For me, because I'm in the faith-based genre, the Kendrick brothers, their film War Room. That's one of my favorite films. That was, you know, it had a good storyline and the power of prayer. And it actually transformed people at the movie theater where they were actually praying in the lobbies, I heard, as a result of seeing the film. So that is what I'm looking forward to, getting to that part where you can make films that actually change. It's not just entertainment, but it changes their mindset and the way they behave as a result of the influence of a film.
I'm more of a horror girl, so I think a lot of things influence me and inspire me. Like, I love what Misha Green is doing. That's basically what I want to do as a filmmaker. And I think my earliest influence was like Blade, seeing like a black man be like that on a Marvel film, the first Marvel film to ever make that like $1 billion, I think. And yeah, just a lot of stuff. Octavia Butler books, like, yeah.
And then for me, I grew up watching Spike Lee films. So he's like my biggest inspiration because, you know, he puts the Black experience specifically in Brooklyn and New York, and he creatively spits it out in his own original way. I think that, like, you know, a Spike Lee film, and if you don't, that's unfortunate. But like, I think he is just very specific tone, voice, characters, and location. And I think those are like the things that I want to bring to my filmmaking experience, and hopefully use Chicago as a catalyst for those three things for myself, cinematically.
And as I continue asking questions, I want to encourage any of our viewers to share your questions or comments so you can join the conversation. Usually we'd have everyone stand up with a microphone if we were in person like previous years. So we're happy that you can still at least participate by commenting and sharing your thoughts or asking questions for our filmmakers. So my next is for everyone, starting with China. What have you learned from making this film that's been in the festival that you'll carry to your next project?
You know what? The next film I do, there must be storyboarding and a shot list. Because there were some shots, you can easily miss shots if you try to rely on your memory as a director and or producer. So shot lists and storyboards are my best friends moving forward. Never ever do another film without those two items.
Aretha?
For me, because this had just a little bit of a period part that was inserted in, that was a flashback to when the children of Israel, when the death angel went and the blood was put on the door. The costuming for for biblically based films is a challenge for me, and I want to, my other scripts have more of those type of scenes, and so it's going to be interesting. And I was thankful for Henri. She actually was my costume designer, and she helped a lot. So I'm going to need her and some others for the next level, because it's going to be something to recreate the costumes for a period piece. That is a challenge, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it gets worked out.
I think what I'll take into my next projects is just perseverance. I think during the post-production process, I had to like switch VFX editors in the middle. And the fact that it is kind of weird in a sense while making it, I guess. But yeah, I would say just perseverance and trusting in my vision. And letting that lead me to the end, because I feel like I did that and I came out with a great product, but in past and stuff, projects before this, I didn't as much. So I think I learned the most from this. Just continue. If you feel like you're about to stop doing a project in the middle because something happened, just continue doing it and see what happens and see what comes of it, because you never know what it's going to look like in the end until you try your best to make it happen, basically.
True. I never would have guessed all that, TJ.
Absolutely. I think for me, from a technical standpoint, what I would take away from this experience would be to make sure that I always watch my dailies, because there was a couple scenes where like I was like, I had it, I knew I had it, and then I looked at my footage like when I was no longer on set, like, and I was like, I didn't have it, or there could have been another moment that I could have got from a different, moment from my storyboard or from my shot list, like. And so, in the post-production, where you'd realize that you either have to rely on your wide shot, or you just have to get creative with how you're blending your shots if you don't really have the emotional moment that you would have grabbed. That's from a technical standpoint, just making sure that I always watch my daily after a scene has been filmed. I know we're tight on time, but I need to make sure I have my moment. And I think secondly, I probably would make sure that I have the resources aligned financially and support-wise, because for me, I was fortunate to where I was able to raise the amount of money that I needed, and I had a really supportive crew of people, but I know that if I would have had a little bit more financial resource, we would have been able to do a little bit more. So I think putting more pressure on myself to not be gentle about a budget, like be aggressive and say, no, I need to do this, I need this amount, and I cannot complete my project unless I have this amount. So I learned that from that experience. Like, don't be gentle and be fearful about having money conversations and pushing yourself to raise more money. Just go for it.
That is a perfect segue to my next question, which is going to be about how do you balance like your artistic expression with the business side of film. So both like pulling things together in production, but also after your film is made, and the fact that each film is kind of like a small business of its own. So let's start with TJ and kind of work back around.
Can you repeat that one more time?
How do you balance the creative with the business? So both the production side and then like after the film is made.
Got it. Yeah, I think for me, I'm just learning what it means to be an independent filmmaker, because at the time that this film was made, I was wrapping up film school, and I was forced into a really nice tight bubble of this is what you have to do, and this is how you can be successful. But now that I'm out here by myself, it's like, okay, I really have to learn the business aspects of how to sustain a foundation and then build on top of that foundation creatively. So I think right now, literally in my current space, that is what I'm trying to establish. But I think to answer your question more specifically, I think for me is just making sure that you have the right producing partner. Because if you have the right producing partner when you are a writer and director, as a writer, as a director, you're the visionary, you're the creative lead on this project. But if you have the right producing partner, which fortunately I had, who's a great friend of mine, shout out to Henny, when you have the right producing partner, they're going to make sure that the business aspect and paperwork and logistics are all taken care of. So I think having that dynamic is really important.
I agree with everything he said. Having a producing partner, and just having a plan, like a budget laid out. Make sure you always have like a spreadsheet and a budget with the numbers plugged in correctly. But yeah, my producer, I credit him for a lot of this like project. Ray Nicardio, he is a Chicago native and he knows his way around Chicago. So I credit him for most of it. And yeah, I think you have to have the right group of people that understand your project and want to help you make your project come to life in the way that you see it. And it's hard to find that. You gotta like talk to a lot of people, sit down and stuff like that. I think you have to just take the time to find the right people, and with the right people behind you, you can make anything, I believe.
Aretha?
And I would say, yeah, having just what she said, the right people. But for me, it was a little different. My background is actually in accounting. So I have a business degree and I spent my whole life in that area. And so I didn't do my first short film till 2017 at the age of 50. So that was like a whole different world to get in. But I always said that I was an accountant, but I didn't fit as an accountant, and because I love being creative, and to combine the two was awesome. So I love doing the creative part of it, but then at the end of the day, the actors are loud because it's like, we get to the table read, you're gonna have all the paperwork there, you're gonna have everything. I'm gonna have lined up. I have a timeline with schedules and da-da-da-da. So yeah, that part is more familiar with me, the business part, than the creative. But now to put the two together, I love it.
I would definitely say moving forward, I'm not going to seek any more donations. I'm going to, complete the script, reach out to executive producers to fund the film in totality. And also, if I do hire a director for my next film, I'm going to sit with that director and make sure that we are in alignment in totality with the vision. Because to assume that another person outside of you has the exact vision that you have without communicating and sitting down and say, hey, it's like, no, you can't assume that's the case, right? So I definitely next time around, I'm actually going to direct the next film of mine. This is the first time I actually let somebody else direct my film. So that was interesting. But yeah, moving forward, I'm going to direct it. But if I do hire somebody else, we're going to sit down and have a long conversation about what is really key for me to see in the film. And again, have many people put money behind it without donation.
So another perfect segue to my next question was, can you tell us a little bit about either the project that's next in the pipeline or what you want to do next? So let's start with China, since you were already so close to telling us about it.
Well, my next film is titled To Cook or Not to Cook. It's a feature film. It's a drama centered around a 23-year-old young lady who's estranged from her chef father. And her name is Chicago. Shout out to my city.
There we go.
I named her Chicago. That's the least I can do. I live in New York City. I got to shout out Chicago.
Yes.
So that's the next feature film. I've already started writing. I've had like maybe 7 virtual readings of it. And my hope is to direct it next August, because I don't want actors pretending like it's warm out when it's really cold. We're not doing that. So September is my aim to film this movie, and I'll have a small role in it, but I'm excited about it.
Oh, Aretha?
Whoops.
There we
go. I actually, after we did Passed Over, we actually finished that in it was completed, I want to say, January of this year. And I had another faith-based film that I was going to do, but then COVID happened. So I switched gears and I ended up doing a short comedy that we just released on Labor Day called No Contact Love. And it's about an online dating service where it's virtual, because of COVID, and you don't talk. There's no contact love. So that was such a fun project because we didn't even see each other. I told the actors, film yourself as if you were applying for, love, and just send me the film. And I had my editor, shout out to Rail, put it all together, and we came up with this concept. And I actually had a chance to write. I wrote the jingle that goes with it. So I did the songwriting. So it was so much fun. So that was a way to say, hey, how can I be creative during this COVID culture? And I was like, let's do something about it. And people actually thought it was a real dating website. And I said, no, it's fictitious. So that was my latest, which just came out this month. So later on, I'll probably wait till next year.
Exciting. You might need to make that a real thing. Tristian.
I have a couple of things going on. I just got a grant to start development on like this Black female werewolf idea that I have. Like it's going to be like an anthology type thing of shorts that might lead to feature idea that I have. And I had a film that I was going to shoot before COVID happened, and I decided to try to like sell the script. So I'm in talks to kind of like sell the short script or friends and stuff. But yeah, I'm excited to start development on this idea that I have. I'm in the research stages. So yeah, that's what I'm excited about.
Exciting. TJ?
Nice. Yeah, I just finished writing my first digital web series ever. It's going to be called BPM, which stands for Black Power Matters, or Beats Per Minute. And it's going to follow 6 characters whose lives intertwine through different topics like gun ownership in the Black community, same-sex love, trans culture, religion, and also finding love in old age. My paternal uncle, and my maternal grandmother started dating when I was in college. They were not related, but they started dating while I was in college, and then they got married after I graduated, and he passed away in May due to COVID-19. And their love story is just so beautiful and unique. And I think I would love to see more, narratives that show love when people in their later years in life. And so this web series, I'm working on securing funding right now to produce it very soon, and secure my crew. So I'm excited because this is going to be my first project since this film where I get to put a lot of the things that I learned in the last year, and also just lift up my voice creatively in terms of some things that I would like to say in various capacities. So yeah, I'm excited.
Ooh, those all sound good. So I hope the Chicago Southside Film Festival will get a chance to screen them all. I personally want to watch them wherever they show up. So my last question, since we're coming towards the end, is for all of our viewers and the people who loved your films. Where can they find you and your work and continue to support you? So any websites or social platforms that they can connect with you on? Unless start with China.
Just my name. My website is China, spelled just like the country, ChinaLColston.com. Thanks.
And for me, everything that I'm doing as far as the projects, you'll find it on the Courage Over Fear Films Facebook page is where I usually post all of the projects that I'm working
on. Find me on Twitter or Instagram. My Twitter is just type in Tristian Montgomery. Black Girls Need Space is another way to find me. Yeah, you can find my work on my Vimeo page. And yeah, just find me on Twitter and you should be able to find everything else.
Okay. DJ.
Nice. Yeah, you can find me on Vimeo, vimeo.com/TJali, or on Instagram and Twitter is Teejali, Teejali.
Perfect. Thank you all so much. I see some kudos in the comments. Shout out to my girl China from John Young. Another filmmaker who's in our next shorts block next Saturday said she thought American Boy was dope. So thank you all so much for joining us, for sharing your wonderful films. Thank you as well to the filmmakers who could not join us. Okema, Gunn seemed to have some technical issues, Eleva, Singleton, and Elena, Valentine. Thank you to everyone who has joined and supports the Chicago Southside Film Festival. We're officially halfway through our screenings. We have 3 more amazing screenings with quite a few more filmmakers. Tomorrow we have Far East, Deep South, and we'll be streaming that all day and having a live panel in the evening. So join us, southsidefilmfest.org, for the rest of our program. And thank you so much for everyone who joined us and tuned in.
Thank you.
Thank you so
much.
much. I appreciate it.